there is this adage of follow the money, but there are very few units to follow the money in these countries, including in the United States, even though we have giant infrastructure that is following the money. But they don't make many of these cases. Most of these situations where they want to control the money get channeled through other means. The mechanisms to crack down on the criminal groups happen through things like visas. You cancel people's visas if you suspect that they're involved in these illicit activities, or more importantly, through the Treasury Department, through OFAC list is the most important of these things, where you essentially freeze all of the assets and movement of assets of any company that you think is connected to a criminal group. That's where most of these investigations end up, because they have a very hard time proving these money laundering schemes, because now they're so multi-layered and they're often happening in so many different spaces, and increasingly they're not happening in the same space. So you're not even having money move between these groups. You're having them purchase and have sort of equivalent purchases happening in two different countries at the same time. So they don't even have to exchange money. So then there's no transaction. So how do you prove that case in a court of law? You can't. And if they're happening in places like China, really? Like, what are you going to do there? How are you going to investigate money laundering that is connected to Chinese assets or banks? Good luck with that. So you can see why it has trended in this direction of you just don't have a lot of these cases. But at the same time, it is also kind of frustrating. So yes, you have this diversification, to go back to your original question, and we're going from kind of, money exchange houses, or obviously banks. Those were kind of traditional ways, to these sort of cross-border exchanges of capital, to all the way to crypto. And this is the kind of range you're seeing now. And so if you're a money laundering investigator, you are facing down myriad challenges, because you've got to decipher all of these different things that may be happening, and maybe all happening at the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty insane to see how these banks, I don't know, there's millions of dollars coming in and out, that there should be, I imagine there's some kind of red tape that says, hey, if this certain amount comes in or out, we need to investigate it further. But, in this case, this TD Bank, over $670 million were laundered before anything was kind of like identified or anyone kind of raised suspicion. I don't understand. It feels, when in the banking, and this is just there's another one that's very similar numbers. And again, no red flags. No one investigated it until finally there was a death, and then so on and so forth. But like, how does that happen in a banking system? Like, why don't the banks have something in play that might be able to kind of further investigate when you have that kind of money coming in and out of a bank?
Malfeasance, corruption, criminal activity within the bank. None of these red flag systems that you're talking about. And you talk about AI. I mean, easily you could institute some kind of AI system that is raising red flags. It doesn't mean that you necessarily stop the transactions. You could let the transactions even go through. And then when it reaches a certain threshold, then you're like, oh, well, this warrants a very deep look at this. Incentives for them to comply with this. Obviously, the disincentive is that they're going to be put out to the world like a money laundering bank. They may lose some business from it. They may gain business from it. Let's be honest. So there's that. And what's the cost? I mean, the cost is what, a few $1 billion, which for a bank like this, I'm guessing isn't going to hit them too hard. I don't know. I don't know what TD Bank's annual gross revenue is, but I can imagine it's pretty damn high.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of different things that can be done, and what we're seeing now, unfortunately, with the Trump administration is a push towards deregulation, not regulation, and the mechanisms by which those who monitor these activities and those who are supposed to go into the banks and say, this is a very clear red flag that you did not red flag, those systems are being dismantled. So how do we expect this to get any better? It's not going to get any better because the most robust system in the world is or was in the United States, and that's being dismantled and on every level.
Why is that being dismantled? I haven't heard that
I
yet.
don't know. I don't know, but it's under the guise of efficiency and all the rest, and they're taking apart these systems, whether it's the regulatory system, even things like the SEC, which you don't necessarily think of in money laundering terms, but they had an investigation into a platform that is a crypto platform called Tron. And the head of that crypto platform, as it happens, was under investigation. And Tron is very important because most of its servers operate in China. So it becomes a very attractive platform for people to elude the US eyeballs for movements of crypto. And this person was under investigation by the SEC. This person announced publicly, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but he announced publicly that he had purchased a number of shares in the Trump family venture into crypto, this crypto company that they've created. They're trying to put out this crypto company, which is actually becoming quite successful for obvious reasons. And then all of a sudden, the SEC says that they're going to put the investigation into him on ice. That's not good. You've got entities within the United States government that are telling me that we need to keep an eye on things like Tron.